Hello, everybody. It's Thrive O'Clock, and thank you for joining Rachelle and Mel in the THRIVEinEDU community today. We have a great show. My name is Melody, just in case you couldn't recognize me today. Please let us know how you're doing. What are you dressing up tomorrow? Are you dressing up today? Let us know. Rachelle, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm not real sure that it's actually you inside that unicorn head, but yeah, I had no plans for dressing up, but then when I came and I saw you, I had to at least get something, and it was either that hat, or this headband. So that's as good as it gets. But
I love your hat.
Thanks. I got it in Nashville last year with all my friends, Mandy, Tisha, Jen, and Jamie. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, wherever you're joining in, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter, wherever you are coming in, tell us, what are your Halloween plans? Are you going to go trick-or-treating? How was school today? Was it like the normal crazy Halloween, or is it wonderful that Halloween's on a Saturday this year, except for the fact that it's also 2020? It's the scariest year of all.
Oh, man.
So we want to know how you're doing and how you're thriving today. And Rachelle, we have a pretty amazing guest. Do you want to tell us about our guest today?
I don't know who it might be, because maybe I won't recognize the guest. I know who we were supposed to have today. I'm not sure if it's the same caring, amazing educator friend of ours, Dave, that's here or not. I don't know. We'll see.
Let me bring him
Dave
up.
Schmittou.
Oh my God, who is this?
He's a Care Bear.
No, Rachelle, I thought I told you this already. It's an I don't care bear. That's where we are right now. I don't care.
I was trying to persuade you to be, you reminded me of when I was a kid and I made my own Care Bear costume. It wasn't quite like yours, though. I'll say, I may have used this same headband for my bear ears. I think I might have. Yeah. So
my mom made my costumes every single year, so I can totally relate. Every year.
Is that the same one you had when you were a kid?
No. Every year I was either a ghost with a sheet, or my dad was in the Navy. I was Popeye, just wearing his Navy uniform every single year, ghost or Popeye. That's it.
Oh, wow. You know, I had some homemade. I was a punk rocker for most of my later elementary years, but I also remember wearing the plastic mask that you could just barely breathe, like it itched your nose holes. You know what I mean? Like, and I was also a ballerina. So yeah, I was a true 80s kid growing up.
I love how you just called them nose holes, not nostrils, nose holes.
That's what they were.
That's amazing.
Those masks. Y'all, I can't take this mask anymore. I'm so sorry. I gotta.
It gets better and better. And I thought when she said that about the nose, I thought she meant like in the mask, like the plastic. Those were the worst. Yeah.
They totally were. Dave, you have written a couple of books. I only have, well, actually more than a couple if we want to get, you have Bold Humility. Other hand. Bold Humility. It's just like riding a bike. And your third book, what is it called? I feel like I should know what it's called. There you go.
Making assessment work for educators who hate data but love kids. Yeah.
Hey, show it again.
Sorry.
And I just want to know, we've been talking about sexy pirates and everything. I'm just curious about your controversial quote.
When were we talking about that? I don't remember that part of the conversation. You are just like the queen of segues right now.
I'm just curious. And so this week you dropped a very controversial tweet. Do you remember?
Well, I remember dropping a tweet that got a little bit of traction in a Facebook community, which was interesting that it was a tweet that got traction in a Facebook community. I didn't see it as controversial, but a few others did. So yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about it on Monday actually, because I think that's the day that I dropped it in our Alice Keeler Tech community, and we talked about it because we were, it was we didn't realize how controversial it would be. Well, I guess I kind of did. I knew it was provocative. I knew what I was doing. I didn't realize the scope that it would go to, but I'm just curious. And for those of you who don't know what it is, do you remember what it said, Dr. Dave?
Yeah. The basic essence was, if you can't grade it or give feedback on it in 48 hours, don't assign it.
Yes. And that
Ouch.
brought out some really strong emotions. What did you think about it, Rachelle?
Well, I saw it on Twitter and I liked it right away because I thought, I mean, without going into a deep analysis of it, right or wrong, just initially thinking like, yeah, our students need to have feedback in a reasonable time because we want to help them to make progress and to continue to learn. And so for me, like, and we talked about this on Monday too, because I think that's the day that it all went down, if I want to say it that way. But when you're assigning projects or whatever it is, I mean, depending on how many students you have, like I have a greater number of students in my classes this year. And so if I do give them a project that took them however long to work on, then the likelihood is if I'm going to give them feedback, I need to give them something sooner rather than later. But if I wait till I'm done grading that full project, that could be a week, it could be 2 weeks. I mean, I've heard stories of students from all over the country where they said, oh yeah, I turned that in and it was like 3 weeks. I mean, even in college, law school, I waited 2 months, 3 months to get the results back. And it's like, how do you prepare? So you need something. And so I don't know that necessarily does it have to be like the final, here's all I have to give you feedback, but they at least need to have something. And I think, I mean, that's kind of what I think Dave was kind of pointing at is like, they shouldn't go 48 hours without hearing anything about it. So, and that's what we talked about on Monday too. Like, I am the type of person where I want to know right away, like, how do they do? What do I need to work on? What can I help them to do better? And give them something, even if it's a quick conversation. Hey, I looked over your quiz, or I looked over your project, and I noticed this area or something that sticks out to you. So before 2 days goes by and they've been practicing it wrong the whole time. So as always, I don't have a definitive answer. I can see both sides.
But you did, Rachelle. But you did what you just said. If I can interject a little bit.
Wait. I want to say what I want to say before you give us the right answer. Okay. I think the reason that I really liked your quote, okay, is even though I understand why a lot of educators think it's impossible and a little obtuse, I totally understand that. It seems like a really short timeline when you have hundreds of students. I totally get that. However, what I think the best thing about it is that if you don't have the time as a teacher, like, no, that's not where I want to go. I want to say it protects your time as a teacher. It not only protects the students and their time and gives them what they need, it also supports your time in it. So if you can't get to it, if it's not a quicker turnaround, I could be completely off, but I feel like it protects both teacher and student equally. And it preserves, like the time that we are able to actually put in. But I could be completely wrong. Now go.
No, you guys are both spot on. And let me preface this by saying, Dave Schmittou does not excel in giving the answer to anything. I have answers, but they are not the answers. Feel free to debate it, discuss it, whatever. It's ironic that I'm dressed as a bear because I've been told I'm very good at poking the bear. And sometimes that's the goal, is just to poke the bear and start the conversations and let the debate and the dialogue begin. But sometimes it is to try to get people to think about things differently. So if I can rewind, number one, I am yet to change anybody's mind about anything on social media. So if anybody's thinking that Dave Schmittou is dropping bombs on social media to try to change people's opinions, we don't understand how social media works, because you are not going to change anybody's opinion on anything in social media. That's number one. Number two, you're in. I think part of the controversy, if you will, that's erupted on Monday, Tuesday, last night, this morning, as I was looking at people's comments, stem from two major components that I think people need to understand. Number one, research says that evidence of student learning should be used formatively and summatively. That you should not throw a label on an assessment and call it formative or summative. There's not a shred of research that says designating an assignment as formative or summative results in greater student learning. All that does is limit our ability to use the assessment. Basic premise is this. If you say that I'm going to call this assessment formative because it's not high quality, it's just a quick check, but the basic premise of formative assessment is that's what we're using to inform our practice, to change our instruction. You're basing your instructional decisions based off of evidence that you just said is subpar, which makes no sense. On the same token, you're saying that there's summative assessments, which are big, high quality, rigorous assessments that are going to come at the end, but by that time, it's too late for me to do anything with it. So you're saying the good evidence is stuff I can't use. Defeats the entire purpose. Research says all evidence, if you're using it, is good evidence to use formatively and summatively. Use them as adverbs. That's the basic premise. And if you're waiting 48 hours to distinguish and determine whether or not the evidence you're collecting demonstrated that the students learned, I have no idea how you're making your instructional plans going forward. You have to be able to collect evidence of whether or not students got what you presented. Otherwise, your plans are just your plans. They're not based off of student need. So that's number one. Point number two, to your point, is that it does help the teacher. If it doesn't help you stay focused and say, I'm only going to assign things that have value, and this was a major theme as people were discussing whether or not you should assign things that don't have value or not, which that's a whole nother conversation. But if you're assigning things that don't have value, don't assign things that don't have value to you. That's another major component of this. And I mean, I can go on and on and on, but I think there's a lot to unpack just in that. But the last piece I'll say is you don't have to just provide feedback at the end. As I'm talking right now, I'm getting feedback right now from people that are commenting in the chat. This conversation hasn't wrapped up yet. I'm not waiting till after this is done to go back and read all the comments and get feedback. You can get feedback. You can give feedback to kids during the process of instruction and during the process of assessing. It doesn't have to be wait and collect 150 essays and then go and read 3 to 5 page essays from every single student all in a week and then give the feedback. It should be embedded within the process.
I love that. And I'm so glad you explained. I'm not on mute, am I?
No.
No, you're good.
I love that. And I think that we get stuck when we think we have to do it at the end, like you were saying.
Correct.
But I love that you said it's an adverb. When we're doing it in the process, I'm just thinking of when I'm helping my students write better, like I'm in the process, helping them learn how to
Absolutely.
write better in the process, which is even more meaningful than waiting till the end and saying, hey, you did all of this wrong. This could make it better.
Yeah.
You're
Absolutely.
in there helping them in the process. I love that.
Yeah. And Rachelle, you can answer this. You've written multiple books. There's power there when you have the editor in there making suggestions and comments and you're keeping track with the editor and making those adjustments in real time. Because if you did wait until after the end and the editor gave you 100 comments based off of a 200-page book, it's going to take you forever to address those. So there's value in getting into real time.
Yeah, I'm going to let that one go, that example go. Because let's just say, you as a person writing a book, you definitely want the feedback so that you don't write books or write whatever you're writing. And then it's all wrong. Same as our students. They don't want to do the whole project because then what happens is they find out at the end, oh, so I thought I was doing this okay and I didn't have it right. And I spent all this time in. So not only do I have to do it all again, I didn't actually learn what I thought I was learning. And then they have a negative kind of a feeling toward feedback, or they're kind of afraid to take a risk or anything like that. So sorry, you made me pause there because I was trying to think when you said that, like, ooh, I know what that's like, but it's hard. I mean, just throwing out an example, like taking the bar exam. I took it in July. I spent my life studying for it. And the relief of when you're finished, but you have to wait. I mean, months. We didn't find out until the middle of November, in which time I can tell you without a doubt that most of what I learned in that 4 years and that I spent so much time studying was so far removed after taking that exam, just because like you shut down, you go back to whatever you're doing, which for me is teaching, because I was teaching full time and doing that. And I thought, please don't let me have to take that exam again. I mean, that was like I think it was 16 hours, because 2 8-hour days and on all the different types of law, which and that happens to people. I mean, I know a lot of people who it took multiple times to take that exam and pass it, but there's no way around it. I mean, when it comes to something like that. So, and I tell my students too, they want to know, when am I going to get that test back? They'll ask me in the day, 2 periods later, I go, I was teaching. I didn't check it yet. I said, believe me, I want to know how you did as well. But I'm fast. I'm not that fast. But I tell them about college experiences. Like just yesterday, we were talking about with my Spanish 3 class that taking a test, and it's stressful because they're waiting to find out, and they have multiple tests coming up, of course, throughout the whole school year. And I said, well, in college, a lot of times, like it comes out with psychology course. And I said, yeah, I took that my freshman year at Penn State and I got a C. And that was the only grade for the whole semester. And I said, I studied, I read everything. I went to the study sessions, and one exam, I had to wait a month to get the results, and ended up with a C in a course. And for my first semester, I had a 2.2. And that was rough, but it happens. I mean, I didn't have an opportunity to go find out why. It was a Scantron. It was 20 questions. It came down to 2, like, which one is it? And, that's the way that went. But
and so if I can just add on to that, and then maybe we can shift gears if so necessary. But right now, my day job is I am a professor of educational leadership. So I have students that I teach, and I have to collect tons and tons of written projects from students that I have to then return and grade. But I've had people use those examples like, well, that's not how it's done in college, or it's not how it's done in the real world. And we have to prepare our kids for that. And my response back is, if you can prove to me that system in college where I work works, then let's go. But all I hear from people is the horror stories associated with that broken system. And when we say that, we have to cram and we have to study to take these tests, and then we have to wait months for the feedback. It's the same thing that I hear from teachers when we give these summative exams, summative air quotes, exams in April and May, and we don't get the results till August and September. And people say, but I can't do anything with it. So they dismiss those results. It's the same thing we're talking about here. We cannot prepare our students for a broken system and use that as justification to create our own broken system. If we know better, do better, and let the rest of the game change. So
crap, where is the mic? Let's drop that. That was words right there. You just took us to church, my friend. And here's another thought that I was thinking. Your tweet, your words, they really challenged my thinking. And I think that's good. It didn't make me mad. I was curious about what other people thought, but I wonder what we saw a lot of people just get really, really angry. And so I wonder sometimes, why is it that our default, when we're being challenged to think differently, why is our default anger instead of digging into that challenge? Because like you just said, we have a very broken system, and a lot of us are trying to make it a better system that works better for people. But instead of like feeling the challenge of it, we get to that default anger. And so that really, kind of upset me in a way, because I felt like there were some personal attacks that obviously I don't want anybody to experience, but I just thought we need to do better.
Yeah, I think the way that we are in schools in a lot of places, and I'm going to stereotype and generalize, but this is systemic. Organization, big O, not necessarily your organization. But the big system is that all feedback is a label-making machine. When we provide a grade to a student, it's to assign a label. We have at-risk students, we have special education students, we have ELLs, and everything's a label. We have effective teachers and highly effective teachers. Feedback is considered a label. So even on social media, when there's a tweet that people look at and say, oh, he's trying to define, or he's trying to describe me, they take it as a label, as a designation, as opposed to, no, it's an opportunity for conversation. It is simply a comment. It is not a judgment. It's a comment. It is feedback. It could be objective. It could be subjective. Take it, use it, respond to it, converse amongst yourselves, and be well. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to interject.
This is what your mom said, Rachelle.
I know, but I read it. I was like, what's 2.2? Trying to think. I'm sitting here for like 3 minutes trying to think, what is 2.2? Yeah, it was, because I had.
That's not what you told her.
No, I haven't seen it, because I really didn't.
That's a label right there. That is a freaking label.
I was afraid that I was going to flunk out of my freshman year, because I did. I had a 2.2 because I had psychology, which I got a C. I had French, and that I did well in because I'd done well in that in school. I had the band, so I was good at twirling the baton, so that helped with that. But I took calculus, and the ironic part of it is that in high school I was in the advanced courses. So my senior year, I had taken calculus, and I think I ended up with like a B+ for the final. Actually, it's probably a B. So I could have paid to have that credit transfer to college, but then I thought, you know what, I'll take it again, and then I can probably do better. I'll probably get an A because I had a B. I'll get an A.
So
be great. But I got a D.
Do you just hear the system that you just described? You had demonstrated that you learned the material, and you could have paid to get credit for it. So just mind you, the people that are using that system as the bar to say that's what we have to prepare our kids for. And again, I work in that system. You just said, could I have paid so that they could have taken my mastery of the material and given me credit for it?
Yeah,
Whew.
but
Carry on, Rachelle. I apologize.
But if I could go back now that you said that, trust me, I really wish I would have paid that $75.
Right. Yeah.
Because the label sticks. Look, all these years later, that label.
But I got a
D.
D. I got a 4-credit D in that course, and
Yep.
it's not that I didn't understand it. It's just that the exam, the grade, came down to one exam in December, 20 questions, multiple choice Scantron. So unlike high school where I missed points along the way, there was partial credit or whatever the case was, I didn't have that. So I missed 6 questions and I ended up with a 65. So I got a D. So I had a C in a D in calculus, a C in psychology. And I think I had a writing course or something I had a science course I had taken. And I think I got a C+ in that. And so not so great, but I've told my students the story about that often, that like, yeah, I thought I knew it, but I mean, and now I question, did I know it because I did well in high school with it? Well, I mean, I got a B, but then I went to college and I got a D. So I don't know.
Well, I had a conversation with a principal this morning who he leads a school in Illinois, and he called me because he said his school just had parent-teacher conferences this week, and they're in this hybrid, so some people are in person and some aren't. But he had been invited to a couple of the conferences, and he was calling me because he was frustrated. He said he attended multiple conferences where the teacher said something to the parent that got him in a tizzy. And the statement was, it sounds simple, but it led to this kind of conversation. The statement was, the teacher looked at the parent and said, I know your child is smart. They know all the material, but, and then they went on to explain all the hoops that they're not jumping through, the game of school that they're not playing well. And this principal said, that's interesting. So maybe we need to change the game that we're having kids play. If a teacher can look you in the eye and say, I know you know this. And what you just said, Rachelle, reminded me of that. You said, I knew the material, but it was this 20 question multiple choice Scantron, or there's 16 hours of a test I had to cram for, whatever the case may be. So,
and it was something you couldn't change, and it affected you. Like, it affected you mentally, and it affected your GPA.
Yeah.
I mean, and I love that you talked about labels, because even I remember in the first grade, I'm very intrinsically motivated. Nobody can be harder on me than I am on myself. When I got a C on my report card in math, that dramatically changed how I viewed myself as a math learner. Like, it took me years. Like, I didn't want to be a C student. And even though I tried very hard not to be a C student, it always stayed with me. And so I love this conversation just because it really is a broken system. And the way that we are challenged to think about this really does matter. And I think the way that we talk with each other about it, we should be continuing to help each other think, but not tear each other down in the process. And I do want to say, Eric says, with all of the feedback ed tech tools out there, it is becoming easier to provide personalized feedback. Find a process that works and quicken the curve. And I think that that's a helpful thing too, when we're talking about just this journey of giving feedback in a quicker,
and for what it's worth, I like Eric's next comment even better.
I actually have to vouch for peanut butter whiskey, man. I love the crap out of some peanut butter whiskey. Sorry, Rachelle, I apologize. Like, I'm totally making sense.
I should have known, because like with both of you, when I sat down and saw you, I knew I was in trouble. I should have stayed, like, not on the screen, just left my hat here. I don't know. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. But
and we're being so serious that we're all dressed up like it. I just love it. Like, this is great. I actually think that this is what we should be talking about a lot more now that we've talked about it.
Yeah. And I was finishing up some grades today. I think was I telling you? I don't even remember. I don't remember what I did 5 minutes ago. I'm not quite sure. So going on, but students asking, can I do this? Can I do that? And we go back to the whole concept of Dan Kreiness and I were talking on the podcast, Be the Devil's Advocate, about giving zeros. And I laugh because for years, I mean, you don't turn anything in. I don't have anything to grade for you. But the funny thing is about a year, I guess maybe 2 years ago, I laugh when I tell this story, because I had a student who did not turn a project in. They had 3 days in class to work on it, because I wasn't there. And I think at least a week. So the time came and went, the project wasn't turned in. So it was just a 0 in the grade book. Like, there wasn't anything there. So probably 2 months after it was due, the student came in and said, so I turned in that project last night. Oh, what project? The one that I had a 0 on. Okay. Why did I have a 0? I said, because it was due 2 months ago. And he said, I don't see why that matters. And I laughed, like I almost fell out of my chair laughing because I went, well, what do you mean? You don't see why that matters. He said, because I know the vocab, I know the verbs, I know everything. I didn't finish it. I was just lazy about it, but I know it. And I said, well, if this were the real world, there's the word. If this were the real world and you were actually working and that was a project for your boss, I think you might have been showing up to work for 2 months for nothing because you would have had to have something to turn in. But it still brings a smile to my face every time I think about it, because I just think, yeah, he was onto something there. Like, it doesn't matter. I was just lazy. And I said, well, okay, moving forward, try not to be lazy, like 2 months, get things done, especially when you had 3 days in class. I mean, you could have, that was ample time for what it was to get it, to have it, be finished. But it was refreshing to hear and I joked, I said, I am going to write about that in my That One Kid book that's coming out.
Yeah. And to play devil's advocate with you on that a little bit, because there might be people listening or watching right now saying, well, see, Rachelle, it proves that 0 worked. It motivated that kid to go out and do the project, right? My response back, my retort back would be, number one, I don't necessarily have a problem with 0s in the grade book. I have a problem with 0s on a 100-point scale. That's the issue, because then it's mathematically difficult. But if you have a 4-point scale and you're checking for mastery and progression, it's a whole different level, conversation for another day. But number two, you can still hold kids accountable for stuff like that. The problem is when the grade, by law, in all 50 states, here in the States, there's legislation that describes that a grade, especially at the high school level, is based off of mastery of standards. The standards are the driving curriculum, and the grade is supposed to represent mastery of that. So when you convolute that by having other things in there, work ethic and timeliness and all of those other things in a grade that's supposed to be reporting academic aptitude, you have just perverted the system. You can still hold kids accountable for that stuff. You can still put it in the comments. You can still call mommies and daddies and have detentions and do all that other stuff. It just cannot be in the grade, because the grade has to be a representation of student progression towards mastery of the standards, period.
Wow. I really love that. And I also think sometimes, when we put 0s in the grade book, we just move on. We have to get our grades finished. We have to get it for the whatever deadline, for progress reports or report cards. We don't even think about it sometimes, but those 0s mean so much more to our students. And so even though that, the lazy kid, I'm just going to call him, like that 0 really did, it really meant something to him. He felt like he had a while to, negotiate it. But yeah, I have to say, and when I'm in the room with both of you, I do not feel nearly as intelligent, but I have to say that this is the conversation that we need to be having so much more of. I mean, and this is what is going to change our system for the better if we can actually do it in a better way.
First of all, take back that comment that you said about yourself. Second of all, can you put the unicorn head back on, because it's kind of, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I can't, no, but it's, I knew you would do it. Look at that.
I aimed to please.
My favorite part is that when you took it off and you actually still had another costume on underneath. It's just like the layers. You're just peeling the layers off. This is it for me. It's a hat. It's not even a costume. It's just, yeah.
Okay. All right. We had a lot of heavy. Okay. Really, honestly, it's so hard for me to navigate my life with that. So I'm going to take it off. Before we go, though, I do want to uphold our tradition of the sweet and sour of the week. And for those of you, Eric, Marianne, if you're watching, tell us, what is the sweet? What is the sour? Our lemonade learning. Who wants to go first? Tell us the sweet.
So, my sweet is right now, because this has been like so much fun. I know I took the easy way out, right? No, honestly, my sweet has been just the same thing I say all the time, just the conversations, interactions with the students. The other day, just talking about school, and I had one of the students said, I'm applying to schools, and this one, there's no way I'm going to get in, should I even bother? I was like, yeah, yeah. If you want to go, yeah, you apply. And if you don't get it, I said, that's the same thing I did with law school. I didn't even tell anybody I was applying. I just did it. I wanted to know. I said, just go for it. But having those conversations and connecting and laughing and just being ridiculous sometimes, it's a lot of fun with them. So even if I'm feeling like overwhelmed and frustrated and completely exhausted, that's what always snaps me back. So that's my
Awesome.
sweet.
That's a great suite.
That's good.
Thanks.
Dave, grumpy
Fine,
bear? Or I don't care, bear. I'm so sorry.
I can't top that, but so right now I'm teaching a couple of courses, and when I teach the students, I always share my cell phone number. I feel like the whole world has my cell phone number by now, so it's not a big deal. But I got a text back from a student on Wednesday night who sent me a text. They're going through for their master's to become a future principal. Our conversation in class earlier in the week revolved around change and how do we enact change. And there was just a lot of naysayers saying, but I can't change the system. The system is what it is. Who am I? I'm just going to be. There's always the superintendent. There's always the governor. There's always somebody else that makes the laws. And this person had this epiphany, apparently during class, that they wanted to let me know that they realized it's something we say all the time, that we are all a part of the system. If we want to change the system, that means we as individuals have to change. Just like when you stub your toe, just a little bitty toe will send pain through your entire body. The same thing can happen with each of us. You want to change the system, change yourself. We were all about that back in April and May, changing the system, and then it kind of fizzled. It can apply to any walk of education. And that was just powerful that this person had the epiphany that they can be that spark.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I would have to say my suite is just all the amazing conversations I've had this week, including right now. I had an educator spotlight with Dr. Sarah Thomas yesterday. I had a book chat that I absolutely loved with an illustrator and the children's author who was also a little girl. And then, of course, I don't, it's Halloween tomorrow. I feel like there's a little part of normal life that's going to happen tomorrow that we have missed for months. And I have to admit that I've eaten all the chocolate already. We have to get another bag of candy because it is so delicious. When my husband gets dark chocolate for me, he blows my heart. And so that is a very sweet. Okay. It's been a very sweet week. All right. Now, but life, we're not going to fill this up with positivity. Did I say that right?
No, you did not. How's that peanut butter whiskey, pal?
No, but I don't even know that I could say it the way that you said it. I don't know how you did that.
Positivity.
Positivity. I like it.
What is toxic positivity? Wow, that was crazy. I don't get a lot of sleep, everybody. Okay, what is the sour? Tell us the sours. Let's be real.
I'm going first. Want to know what my sour is? I'm so mad at myself that I missed you and Sarah yesterday. I never miss your lives, and I missed it. And I'm very upset.
It's okay. You can forgive yourself because you can replay it.
I know I will, but I'd like to join in live. So that is my sour.
You're a good friend. You're a good friend. That's very supportive.
I try.
Mm-hmm. All right. I don't care, Bear. What's your sour?
So my sour. So I live in Michigan now, but I have a home in Florida was up for sale. It is pending. Hopefully we're going to close soon, but we were supposed to close like right now, but they did the inspection and found termites. So $5,000 later, the last termite is now gone, and fingers are crossed that the buyers still want it. So those are expensive little bugs.
No kidding. Okay, and on the ticker with that sour, everybody look, bit.ly/Schmittou. You can get any 3 of the books. Okay, help this guy out. I'm sorry about that. That does suck, my friend, and totally understand that. Eric says, sweet for me is reflecting on all the progress our teachers are making in technology integration because of COVID-19.
It's awesome.
Thank you for sharing.
Awesome.
Yes, that is awesome. My sour is always my sour. I have put on so much freaking weight since this whole dang thing began. I have to get off my butt. You know what I mean? I've been watching too many Netflix series. I'm my sour. And I'm just, it's going to be my sour until it comes off. I'm waiting to see if Eric has a sour, but this has been a great conversation. I have really enjoyed our time together today. Costumes are not, but I do think that it added a little something that we needed for this week. And I hope people will check you out. Let me put your information up there while Eric is sour.
You called him Grumpy Bear.
He's grumpy. Isn't it Grumpy Bear?
I don't care, Bear.
No. It's all good. They are both apropos.
Grumpy is one of the 7 dwarfs.
Well, what's the blue guy that cries?
Positivity. Hashtag positivity.
I can repeat that.
It's easier to say that now once you say it a few times. I really like the sound of it.
Say it again.
Positivity. I don't think I could spell it, but I can say it.
Well, Eric, are you getting your thoughts together? I want to hear his sour. He can't just tell his sweet. Listen.
No
Okay,
sour. It's Friday.
here it is.
All right.
All right. Oh, okay. Well, all right. There's some positive, toxic, whatever. Just kidding. Okay, but please, everybody, thank you so much for joining in, whether it was from Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, wherever. Follow Dr. Dave Schmittou at Dave Schmittou and look up his book at bit.ly/Schmittou. And we'll have to do this again. You know, I really enjoyed this.
I'm not wearing the hat next time.
I'm going to do something different, but I am dressing up. I think this is the way to go.
Oh, boy.
But everybody, thank you so much for joining in. Have a great week. We will definitely see you on Monday right here.
Yep.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.